Yeah, I would say the biggest shift that I and we are seeing in CTV now is the shift from streaming and CTV being a predominantly branding vehicle into being more of a performance channel. And so you could even call it a branding vehicle with now a built-in performance engine. And so I think that's a really exciting place to be for streaming. I think oftentimes, streaming in the early days was very much a incremental reach play to linear. So brands were looking at it, to capture the cord cutters that were, cutting the cord on traditional TV, and they'd kind of bring over the same targeting, DAR targeting and measurement with a 15 and 30-second spot. And I think we're really seeing the acceleration of the understanding of that we have the tech and tools and the digital infrastructure that, digital and social brings to bear, and that we can really leverage that component to make sure that, streaming video is performant. We now have the tools to prove it, and brands are really leaning in.
So, Kristina, let's stay with that idea that that CTV is now in the performance era. Wanted to know what that means for advertisers' expectations, particularly how they're shifting when it comes to performance and outcomes, and throughout this multi-platform ecosystem you operate in.
Yeah, 100%. I think NBCUniversal has a really unique advantage in that we are omni-channel. So we have linear, we have streaming, we have digital. We also, distribute our O&O onto social platforms. So we have the ability to really offer the full breadth of the ecosystem to our advertisers, which creates a unique experience for us. I think as you started to see the CMO and the CFO get closer, there's just more accountability put on media partners and their advertising buys more broadly. And so I think we're really focused on what does success look like in streaming, right? We know it's been a branding vehicle, and I think traditionally brands looked at branding over here and performance over here and looked at tried and true performance channels, last click attribution, and now they really understand that the role of streaming is really the middle of the funnel, right? But also the impact it has from an incrementality perspective, right? So you think about third-party measurement partners, House Measured, really able to understand incrementality that a streaming video has on lower funnel, search and social, and how it makes everything and every one of your media buy just work that much harder for you. And so I think that's a lot of the focus we're having is testing and learning, working with brands. Like a year ago, we worked with Tenuity and Noble, which is a major sneaker brand, to understand when they pulled spend away from branded search and then put that into premium video, what did that do for incrementality and overall sales? And it drove a lift, right? So I think we anecdotally have always known that premium videos perform it. Now we can really prove it.
Kristina, I have to ask you the inevitable artificial intelligence question,
Yeah.
Of course, as part of everything you're doing in terms of performance and outcomes. Wanted to know how AI is helping advertisers you work with optimize campaigns more effectively, and where you're seeing the biggest impact.
I think there's two different ways. I think there is the element of just helping, drive more efficiency within the advertising workflow. So the idea of agentic AI buying, right? I think we're still seeing it as a proof of concept. But earlier this year at CES, we announced a partnership with Newton Research and RPA. So Newton Research built a buyer agent for RPA. Us, through our FreeRow relationship, who we are both owned by Comcast, built the seller agent, and through that workflow was actually able to have the agents talk to each other and buy linear and streaming for live sports, right? Which is like something that I don't know that 2 years ago, even a year ago, we would have thought was possible. And so that proof of concept, we're still learning, but is really kind of showcasing a promise to what, we and this advertising industry could look like in a year. I think there's so much work being done in the manual and the mundane. We know even in this conversation, there's probably 5 new headlines and new innovations, and it's just a lot to keep up with the speed of the industry. And so having AI agents and AI in the workflows, both internally and for advertising products, is really giving us ability to move faster, be more efficient, remove that manual mundane, and allow us as humans to be more strategic, more creative, and just work really closely with our brand partners to help achieve their goals.
So, Kristina, we touched on the performance and outcomes era, the AI era, and there's also, of course, the attention economy era. There's a lot of eras to cover here. Wanted to get your sense of how the attention economy is essentially how that's maturing, and as a metric, how are you thinking about attention in the context of premium video?
I think for attention, it's really important, again, going back to that upper funnel, it's really what streaming video does well. It's what premium content does well. We know that our audience resonates with the shows, the talent, the IP. We know live drives a ton of attention, right? That kind of co-viewing experience. And so I think first, I would say we're building ad products to kind of make sure we're driving even more attention, right? How do we have that connective tissue between the content the viewer's watching and then the ads they're then served? So we earlier this year announced what we call contextual targeting live. So we tested it in Q4 on VOD, video on demand. And so you can imagine, us using AI to basically comb through decades of our content catalog to understand them, use the metadata to be used for targeting and actually help that connect to the creative. So what that means is if, let's just say, a brand wants to align with a holiday kiss, we then not only can target just that show or just that episode, we can actually get down to the scene level, know when that holiday kiss happens within the show, and then serve an ad with, creatively relevant, branding and advertising in that first slot in that ad break, right? So we see that not just drive better advertiser results, we actually also see the viewer see much more enjoyment from the overall experience when they see a wink and a nod of that that commercial winking back to the content itself. And so I think that's kind of a way in which we're making sure the attention pulls through from the content to the ads. And then I think the other piece I would say is how are we actually measuring it? So we also announced the rollout of what will be our Performance Insights Hub, so our real-time, proprietary intelligence hub, which will, bring in, the campaign level data, third-party measurement. And this is available in the Metas and the Googles of the world, but it's not yet been available within streaming and premium video. And so the ability to have this self-serve real-time dashboard will give us the understanding, leveraging AI and other tools to see how is that campaign performing? How do we want to optimize it mid-campaign? And how do we want to make sure that we're driving towards the best results in a campaign throughout its lifespan?
So Kristina, you really tied together the hard science of AI and metrics and performance. Wanted to also see how you're thinking about the role of creative and personalization, which leads into the discussion you just stated about context. How are you thinking about creative and personalization as data and AI continue to evolve?
I think creative is so important. I think I'm stealing this from, others who have said that creative is the new targeting. And, when you think about creative, from the vantage point of television, it's very much been a heavily produced, highly produced content and creative. And therefore, it limits the amount of creatives and creative versions that exist. When you look at social, you'll see hundreds of creatives that a brand will run. They'll run it, they'll optimize it, they'll see which works, and they'll kind of iterate and optimize towards the ones that perform best. I think you're going to start to see more and more of that come to streaming as just more democratization of access to, television by smaller brands, also access to AI-driven creative tools that just allow for easier, cheaper methods to get creative online. And so what we're seeing is, we have a tool like Canva, right? So we both have the AI-driven ad capabilities to allow for creative versioning connected into FreeWheel, which is our ad server, which is a very unique capability. Like, this is only powerful and possible because of the AI-driven technology, in addition to the fact that we own the ad server, so we can load this creative within it and then serve it accordingly. But then another piece is, how does a brand actually create the different versions to begin with? And that's where Canva can help. And so we're working with them, and that's a really powerful AI-driven tool. I think the important component is that while that's available and accessible and something we see a lot of brands using, we still see them wanting to come to us, use our creative services and our teams to make sure that that ad still tells a story, right? Because storytelling, especially in television, is so incredibly important. And so we want to make sure that's kind of where we, marry the AI and the human element together.